The 1976 Saints wore new black pants, had a new training camp, new head coach, and a new home, the Louisiana Superdome. But they were the same old sad Saints. The Saints had the worst record in 1975, but they drafted third overall in 1976 since Tampa Bay and Seattle were expansion teams and drafted ahead of them. Their new head coach was Hank Stram, who was fired by the Chiefs after a 1974 record of 5 wins and 9 losses, which was the worst Chiefs record in team history at that time. Stram's Chiefs won the Super Bowl for the 1969 season, and his Dallas Texans won the AFL title in 1962. Hank thought that he would have sixth-year budding star Archie Manning as his quarterback, but Manning underwent off-season elbow surgery, and while he was active for 5 games, he didn't receive any playing time. Steelers cast-off Joe Gilliam was on the roster, but was cut prior to the first preseason game due to off-the-field issues. He once had a very promising career as the Steelers' starting quarterback in 1974. Stram was a stickler. He sent 4,000 press brochures back to the printer in order to create beardless mugshots of several players. Stram didn't endear himself to team owner John Meckham when he became furious at discovering Stram offered players both steak and lobster at team dinners. Stram's quarterback coach was Dick Wood, who played 5 professional seasons. His claim to fame was being the New York Jets starting quarterback the 2 years prior to Joe Namath's arrival. The defensive line coach had a far more storied playing career. Buck Buchanan played 13 years for the Kansas City Chiefs, all with head coach Hank Stram. Offensive line coach Dick Stanfill was a Hall of Fame guard for the Lions, with whom he was a part of 2 NFL title teams. Wide receiver coach Sam Ritigliano would become the Browns head coach in 1978 through 8 games of the 1984 season. With the Saints' first-round draft pick, they selected running back Chuck Muncie from the University of California, where he was their first sophomore named team MVP. He set Cal career rushing, receiving, and scoring records at the completion of his collegiate career. Muncie was 6 foot 2.5 inches, 228 pounds, and ran the 100-yard dash in 9.7 seconds, the same time that fellow rookie Mike Haynes did when he was named the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year when he played cornerback for the Patriots. Muncie stood out from other players as he wore shatter-resistant plastic glasses for which he endorsed. Running back Tony Galbreth was the Saints' second-round draft pick in 1976. Out of 12 draft picks, only 4 made the team. Rookies Muncie and Galbreth accounted for 1,921 total yards from scrimmage and scored 10 of the team's 24 touchdowns. Galbreth topped all Saints receivers with 54 catches, while Muncie finished third with 31. Muncie and Galbreth carried the ball 66% of the time. They should have carried it far more times. Tinker Owens was the Saints' fourth-round draft pick out of Oklahoma, where he was a 4-year starter. He caught 62 passes there for 1,424 yards, 10 touchdowns, and a spectacular 23 yards per catch. Owens only caught 12 passes in 1976, and this was his only touchdown on the year. Archie Manning was sacked 186 times in his first 5 seasons with the Saints and led the NFL 3 times in that department. With Manning out, Saints quarterbacks threw the 5th most passes in the NFL for the 17th most yards and the 27th most touchdowns. Bobby Scott started weeks 1 through 7 and 14 while throwing only 4 touchdown passes against 6 interceptions. He only had 1 200-yard passing game and no games in which he threw more than 1 touchdown. Former Bears cast-off Bobby Douglas started 6 games, threw 4 touchdowns, and was intercepted 8 times. He had a 48.4 completion percentage and 58.2 quarterback rating. While stats for the quarterbacks are far from impressive, keep in mind that the Saints gave up the 3rd most sacks in the NFL, a recurring problem for many years. How good was the Saints' defense? They gave up the 8th most rushing yards and the 4th most rushing touchdowns. They had particular difficulty in containing opposing running quarterbacks, too. Even wide receivers enjoyed running against the soft Saints rushing defense. Derlin Moore was the 29th overall draft selection in 1973, and he played defensive tackle, nose tackle, and defensive end at a high level for the Saints. He started 146 games and had 48 sacks, with 8 sacks in 1976 being the second highest total of his 14-year career. Number 57 is Jim Merlo, and he led the Saints with 4 interceptions. He missed the entire 1975 season due to knee surgery recuperation. The Saints allowed the 12th most passing yards and the 9th most passing touchdowns. Well, that's not bad. The team's 12 interceptions wasn't very good, and their 39 sacks were exactly in the middle of the NFL pack. Even when Saints defenders laid the wood to receivers, the results didn't always turn out like they wanted. Free safety Tom Myers was a bright spot in the secondary. He played with the Saints from 1972 through 1981. He intercepted 36 passes with 2 touchdowns, recovered 15 fumbles with 2 more touchdowns, and made the Pro Bowl in 1979 when he intercepted 7 passes. Number 75 defensive tackle Elix Price was another unsung player. He was signed as a free agent out of Alcorn State in 1973 and led the 1976 squad with 8.5 sacks. He had 32 in his 8-year career. all with the Saints. This game was one of 4 wins for the 1976 Saints, who surrendered the 6th most points in the NFL. They also defeated the Falcons, who were also a 4-win team. The Saints' special teams play was a mixed bag of treats. They allowed an NFL worst 25.2 yards per kickoff return and a third worst 11.6 yards per punt return. The Saints' biggest flaw was their inability to consistently protect their quarterbacks. Kansas City head coach Paul Wiggin refused to shake hands with Stram, who was carried off Arrowhead Stadium's turf by his players per Stram's order after their first win in Week 3. Stram was fired after a 3-11 record in 1977, then he immediately joined the announcing booth. I best remember him as a head coach prior to his ill-advised stint with the Saints.